I've been thinking a lot about what goes into creating an OC. How does the idea come to people? How do they design them fully? Is it more intentional or more like just kind of comes to them? I know each OC and their origins are different. There's never going to be one true to form template to creating your OC, which is frustrating, but also, I guess, the fun part. For me, when it came to Marge, it was like a strike of lightning. It was like an accidental pregnancy. It was like finding a stray cat on the street. The OC distribution system really came through, I guess, and now I'm a foster mom to a little mage named Marge. So I wanted to introduce her to you all because I have a feeling you're going to see a lot more of her all over my brand. Just to avoid confusion, this is not going to be a tutorial on OC design, rather more of a discussion or a talk about how I got to mine. Back in July 2025, I was studying different digital art styles. I was very new to Procreate and digital art in general, and I just freshly bought my first ever tablet to draw on. I started learning through tutorials, especially ones that focus on brush techniques rather than step-by-step tutorials. So I drew the landscape, the hills, the flowers, all the jazz, and it looked great. And then the tutorial called for my OC. Now all you need to do is add your OC into the landscape, like it's that easy. I've always wanted an OC, something that could be the mascot of my brand, something people would instantly recognize and I could easily implement into all my prints, stickers, stationery, etc. And I was so frustrated at that point that I just never ended up settling down next to an OC idea. Like it all seemed almost there, almost perfect, but just not quite. So I sat there and I was like, fine, I guess I'll draw something. And long story short, I find myself observing Marge the mage as she was walking up to this cottage on a field. And if you think I knew the lore of Marge, if you think it was intentional, Marge is just as big of a mystery to me as she is to everyone else. But at the same time, I feel the intentionality in her. Like, she has her own idea of who she is in a way. I also had no feelings whatsoever towards the name Marge or Margaret. If anything, I was less than neutral towards it, I guess. Marge the Mage started as a punny name because the two words sounded similar, and it just stuck. She's just Marge now. Now, of course, there was some sort of plan behind her design, so let's just take a look at her. Her long hair represents the absolute freedom she has in this world, and that was one of my must-haves in any of my OCs, whoever I land on. She must be free, courageous, and strong-willed. And as hair represents vitality, life force, and strength, it was only natural that Marge has a mane. Her hair color is not only magical, and it also evokes feelings of nurturing femininity, kindness, gentleness. I am also currently obsessed with this reddish pink color, by the way. The shading and highlighting of her hair is also intentional, as all things should be, as instead of a natural hair color, I tried to shade it as if it was like made of crystal or almost like plasticky. It adds to this magical element and gives the illusion that her hair is multicolored or changes hues with different lighting. It's also just very pleasing to look at, in my opinion. So you see, even if Marge is faceless, there is just as much intention in the back of her head as I would put into her eyes, nose, lips, or clothes. The second thing we see is her staff. For the staff, all I wanted to convey is this sense of craftsmanship and, of course, the magic. Craftsmanship in the fact that it's made of wood and has some imperfections here and there. It's hand carved, you can tell. And magic in the sparkles around it. Here too, I do use some more flashy, less natural highlight and shadow colors just to make it pop more and add a tad more magic already found in that scene. If anything, Marge should be a breath of fresh air when looking at a realistic backdrop. She should be the bridge between our world and magic, fantasy, whimsy. She should not only be the focal point of a scene, but also should provide some shock value. So Marge was born, and I had this instant feeling of connection. She is now my OC, whether I wanted it or not. But I was facing a dilemma with that. So originally, when I was thinking of OCs, I wanted to come up with something painfully easy to draw. I wanted to create an intricate world, a perfectly crafted scenery, a breathtaking backdrop, and then be able to just drop my OC into the middle of it. But now, my OC is a person. She is not easy to draw, and I had to also face the music. I cannot draw people. Faces, bodies, poses, compositions. I don't even know what style I'd begin to want to draw a person if I were to be able to. Do I want to be more realistic? Anime, Disney, chibi, Marvel maybe? Let's just say the arrival of Marge was just as stressful as it was a weight off my shoulders. It's like it took a 25-kilogram rock off my shoulders and replaced it with a 40-kilogram water jug. But this is exactly why we train our drawing muscles. I started to experiment with different styles by taking on monthly challenges and DTIYs, incorporating Marge. I imagine these to be like her in a different dimension, so to speak. It's her, but not quite right yet. I decided to take a breather and go back to my roots. So, what if my OC is faceless? It adds to the charm, to the mystery. Plus, even if I'd have the talent to drawing her face, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what she looks like. Nothing I try seems right. She either looks too realistic or too childish or just off. Not magical enough, I guess, a lot of the times. So instead of forcing something that's just not ready yet, I took her on a journey instead. I also gave her a little purple cape, which I ended up loving. Probably the most monumental piece I have of Marge is this piece called Reflection, made for a Whimsy-tober challenge. It's obviously a more grand piece than what I'm used to making. Very on the nose type ethereal and magical. It's no longer, nice scenery plus a little magic. It's more like, bam, we're in the clouds now. But that's not why this work is one of my favorites. Let me take you on a little trip. More of a trip than we're on right now. My sister is a writer. She's a very talented one, but that's not the point right now. I've always looked up to her, and I continued in her footsteps as I grew. She has a long fantasy novel which revolves around a princess leaving her castle and finding out what really goes on in her land. Conflicts, brewing wars, oppression. Now, this is not an essay, so if I made any mistakes in the plot, recap or anything, please do forgive me. The point is that I was one of the first people to read the manuscript. The book is even dedicated to me, just to flex a tiny bit. And when I was talking to my sister about the book and how she wrote it, she told me this story that always stuck with me. She said that she didn't want to write war. She was nervous, as she has never even attempted to write something like war. She didn't know how to. So she did everything in her power to move the plot in a way that didn't end up in war. And then she looked at me and said, "But Emma, they just ran at each other." She couldn't stop it. It was happening against her will. There was no other conclusion, no other way out of the pressure she built. This anecdote is one I think every creative faces at one point, no matter what your medium is. Sometimes art really just takes over. Sometimes it's inspiration that moves our brush and not learned technique or even talent. Sometimes you just have to take a step back, let go of the thought that you can't do it, and just watch yourself do it. Sometimes you're not the one moving the brush, I guess. So long story short, I was drawing these clouds, and then I drew this Little Nightmares inspired mirror frame as it was around the time the third game came out. And then I was like, maybe I can add Marge here too. And then something happened, as I could have easily left it at that. But for some reason, I watched myself copy-paste the very first Marge painting into the reflection of the mirror. And it was such an intense, epiphany moment, a eureka moment. I even paused to make a video of myself talking about it. It seems so simple, you might think I'm dumb or over-exaggerating, but it was like this out-of-my-control storytelling moment. It wasn't planned, it wasn't intentional, yet it was so poetic. It was not only a reflection to where it all started, as does the title hint at, but it also brought all these lore questions. Did Marge go through a mirror into our dimension? Where is she from? Why is she here? I don't know if it was the lore solver mode I was in post Little Nightmares 3, or just a surge of inspiration that caught me after that accidental strike of genius inspiration, but it was a moment I'll never forget. And maybe I am over-exaggerating, but I have a feeling if you're here, if you follow me, and if you're still listening, it's because you know exactly what I'm talking about. If I'm right, please let me know in the comments that I am not crazy. So everywhere Marge goes, in the heavens or on the earth, is very close to my heart. Each place contains a little bit of natural magic, everyday sparkle, and space. Each location is just endless space, and freedom. Most of them were inspired by my love for Iceland, an homage or maybe a love letter to the island. Genuinely, it's the closest I felt to magic and just raw natural creation and wildness. I could go on and on for days, but I hope my drawings do convey it all, as that's their purpose after all. For now, Marge will remain a faceless little fairy in a world full of nature and fresh air and freedom that she can enjoy. In the future, who knows? I have other OC ideas. Like my very first OC I was planning was this little water droplet guy who I'm still thinking might join Marge on her journeys. I also want to create a white-haired counterpart to Marge representing like purity, trust, loyalty, naivete in a way. Something I also very much align with, I guess. Let's be honest, I am not yet one that you can learn from when it comes to character design, but I know what I want my art to be. And it's this representation of limitless wonder, potential, and magical nature. And even though I lack the skills to draw extravagant poses, compositions, and scenes, one of a manga or anime or Disney artist, that I would like to maybe see represented in myself, it still doesn't stop me from communicating what I know how until I build that repertoire. I can't wait for Marge to show me her face and to be able to introduce herself to you as well in all her glory. But until then, my friends, I just hope that you enjoy the view.